Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if this is your first time here. Hi, hello, we like to have a good time. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about a topic that was really prevalent last year in my life as a senior in high school. And that is applying to colleges slash getting accepted slash how I got into where I am right now. I actually had someone DM me on Instagram and request it. I'll probably put her username in here. So, you know, this is for you and anyone else who's going through this right now. So yeah, let's just get started. So I'll just start off first by talking a little bit about my experience. Last summer of 2017, I started visiting schools. It was really important to my family that I visited schools first and got a real feel for the campus, especially because I wanted to be a film major and there are no real good film schools in Georgia, so I was gonna have to go pretty far away. I started visiting schools out in California and Texas. I visited UCLA, Chapman, USC, and Loyola Marymount. And then in Texas, I visited the University of Texas in Austin. I learned a lot about myself during those two trips during the summer, and it was that I love the schools, but I probably would not be able to handle being that far away from home. I ended up also deciding that I didn't want to be a film major anymore. I thought that the job was going to be too intensive for my interest in the industry, and so I decided that I wanted to be a business major in entrepreneurship, and then that lasted a very short amount of time, and I eventually decided on being an art major. Because of that change from majors, I no longer needed to go out of state to get an education that I thought would suit me, so I visited two schools in Georgia, and those were Georgia Tech and the University of Georgia. And when I visited Georgia Tech, I was pretty much sold on it. I also thought that I wanted to be an industrial engineer, which is basically someone who designs products and just like figures out how they're gonna look, and then they work together with an engineer who will then make them work. So I was still gonna be able to have some artistic expression, but it wasn't anywhere near as much as I would want to. It would be very much like a cooperative, team-based job. And also I realized it wasn't really my personal dream. It was kind of just one that, you know, people were telling me, oh, this would be good for you, oh, this would be awesome, you would be so good at this. And then I visited Georgia Tech and I was like, this is a really cool campus, I want to go here. And that was not the case, especially after I got denied. So right now I'm at the University of Georgia. If you had asked me a year ago if I thought I would be going here, I would definitely say no. I could say that it was an awesome decision, a fantastic decision. I love it here. And even though I grew up about 15-20 minutes from this campus, living in Athens rather than the town that I grew up in is so much different. For my application, I tried to pull it up on UGA's website, but it won't let me anymore because it's an inactive application, which makes sense, it's a year old. But I applied early action, and then I got in at the early action announcements, I think in around November, December. I applied as unintended, and now that I'm an art major, I actually have to apply into my specific emphasis of painting. So I'll get into that later on, probably another video when I have my portfolio ready. The pivotal point to focus on for your grades and everything is like junior year, it gets real serious. It's really like junior, senior year when you get into like your APs and you can dual enroll, and it's the more like upper level classes that really matter. Also, your SAT scores are really important. UGA always posts their incoming freshman class statistics, which you can go see, and they probably have them for a bunch of other bigger schools, or you can probably find them for any school. So if you want to know kind of like a baseline to get to, then you can probably easily find that information. But just know if you see a school that has like a 1400 average SAT score, that if you don't have that, it's okay, because college applications are so multifaceted that if your SAT score is lower than that, but you just like are so profound in other areas of your profile application, then you'll be fine. You can take both the ACT and the SAT. You can take just one. I submitted just one. Everyone also loves to harp on about extracurriculars, and honestly, I didn't have that many. I had Beta Club, Spanish Club, which was honestly like me trying to fill in an extra space, and I've been to like 2 Spanish Club meetings. I honestly don't remember. Beta Club is the only one that I can really remember. My GPA was a 98. unweighted, a 99 weighted, and so it's 4.0 on a 4.0 scale, but if you're doing it on like a 4.5 scale, it's about like a 4.41, 4.35. And then my SAT score was a 1360. I took the ACT, but I wasn't happy with that score, so I didn't submit it. I'm really not sure what got me into school, so I'm just kind of gonna like spout information and draw from it what you will. But understanding the different application deadlines is really useful, especially the difference between early action and regular decision. Because at least at Georgia, early action means that people just look at your profile's academic information and not your extracurriculars or your essays or any other information on there. It's strictly just like your grades and your test scores. If you don't apply early action, you can apply regular decision, where the board will review your application holistically, which means basically looking at all of your application. And that's when your essays and your extracurriculars and your activities and your interests come into play. Some other good things to include in your application for your extra things, your extracurriculars. It doesn't always have to be school-related things. It can be things you do outside of school. I did a lot of volunteering last summer, and so I definitely included that. You can include any hobbies that you practice regularly, any personal projects that you work on. Maybe you're building a robot, or you're designing like an ergonomic chair. Definitely put that in there. That's cool. That's different. And when colleges review your application holistically, they want to see, I guess, more of your character and who you are, and that you're not just a bunch of numbers, and you want to set yourself apart from everybody else that's going to be applying. And also, before I applied, I was really stressed about the essays, because I heard essay and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to write like 1,000 words. Most of them are only about 350 words max. Mine were about 250 for Georgia, and then I had one for Georgia Tech that was like 500 words. But I mean, for the most part, like, that's not as bad as I thought it was gonna be. And the prompts are really open-ended. Usually you have 4 choices to pick from. Yeah, it's really not as bad as you would think. Also, if you apply early action, you can either get accepted or you can be deferred, which means that you have to wait until the regular decisions come out to know if you got accepted or denied. And that's really not a bad thing to get deferred. It's not the end of the world. Doesn't mean you got denied or rejected or anything. It's just they want to wait and review your profile more. Sometimes you have to send them more grades. It's just, you're gonna have to wait a little bit. I would just encourage everyone to apply early action, because it's kind of like you have 2 rounds to go through when it comes to being accepted. You have 2 chances per se. And I also want to talk about choosing the college or the university that you want to go to, and considering, you know, what academic program you want to be a part of. I know when I was younger, when I was a freshman, sophomore, I was envisioning myself in college and how I would travel to the other side of the country and get away from everything, because I hated where I was living and I hated everything, and I was like, man, I can't wait to get away. And now I'm like, I'm on scholarship, in-state tuition, thriving, living. It's okay if you're feeling that way now, but just know when you get older and you have to start making these big life decisions, like, wow, I'm gonna have to spend 4 years at this place. You have to think about the financial impact, the emotional impact, the personal relations impact. Just, it's a whole big life-changing moment, and if you kind of go above and beyond with it and you end up someplace like 2,000 miles from home and you're like, oh, this was a mistake, like, it can be fixed, but it's better to realize how that's going to be for you before you make that decision. Also, I don't know if other states are like this, but in the state of Georgia, they have the Hope Scholarship, which pays about 80% of your tuition, and then there's the Zell Miller Scholarship, which pays for 100% of tuition, and those are strictly just based off of your GPA. Like, if you graduate with a certain GPA, like, I don't know what it is for Hope, I think it's like 3.3 or above, then you get Hope Scholarship, and then Zell Miller is like 3.5 or 3.7. So the only reason when I was older that I was thinking about going to California was because the programs out there for the major I wanted to do were so amazing that was the only reason my parents were like, yeah, we'll go and, you know, we'll consider the idea of you going out to school in California. No, not consider. They were like, we would support you going to school in California if that's what you want to do as your job. And so if your job or your career field or your interest has an amazing program somewhere else and that's just where you need to go, go. Also, if you get like a huge fat scholarship from a school, like the whole tuition paid, everything, go for it. I think it's a really good idea to visit the schools first. I even visited UGA before I came here, which was kind of just like hop skip down the road, and I was kind of like, what am I doing? But it was still really useful because you really get to see all the facilities, get a feel for the environment, and sometimes the specific schools in the university or the college will do tours. Like I did several, like I think at every school in California I did a film school tour and like a whole school tour. But yeah, it's a really good thing to explore. They're free. You just have to make the time to come out. Usually schools will go ahead and excuse them. My high school gave out 2 free passes per semester, I think. Like 2 free days where students could go on college visits. They just had to get a letter from the college or university saying they went. I took 5 APs my high school career. AP Government, AP World History, AP Human Geography, AP Studio Art Drawing and Painting, and then AP English Composition, so AP Lang. I got 4s and 5s on all of them except for Human Geography. I got a 2, so it didn't transfer and count as credit. And the APs are good because they do count as credit once you get to college. But you can also get that same kind of, you know, college level experience if you dual enroll, which I am such a big fan of because I came to UGA with a 1.5 years almost of college credit already. Especially if you're planning on double majoring at university or getting a minor or a certificate where you're gonna need to add in extra hours, but you don't wanna kind of add on an extra year to your education. Dual enrollment helps you get all those core classes out of the way and maybe a little bit more. I don't know if dual enrolling was an extra push for UGA to accept me if they saw that I dual enrolled and they thought, oh, she's college ready, she's the material we want or whatever, but just saying I did it. It's a good experience regardless of if you're gonna try and get into a prestigious school or you just wanna go to a community college still, you'll at least go in with some credit and you won't spend as much time in school. So yeah, I think that's everything for this video. I hope it was useful. I don't really have a surefire way for getting accepted into a university. That's just kind of my experience and my data. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope it was informative and thanks for watching. Now I would say peace out to close this video, but I think a more appropriate ending would be go dogs!